Okay. Yes. Okay. Hello, my name is Carrie Mosick, and I'm one of the instructional designers here at SUNY Oswego. I wanted to take a little bit of time today to look at ways of using GSuite to develop curriculum. When I'm referencing GSuite, I'm talking about Google Docs, slides, sheets, forms, meets, along with others. While I won't have time to focus on each of the components, I did want to talk a little bit about it and how it could work for a flexible course environment that can assist you in developing or re-envisioning content no matter what the modality. This workshop is not going to focus on the how-to portion of creating content. Instead, the purpose is to hopefully inspire you to see how using different components of GSuite can be beneficial for your students. No matter what the plans for fall, using this has multiple pedagogical applications. What I appreciate about using it is that it's very user-friendly and the availability of great how do I videos definitely exist. With all that said, as an instructional designer, we do encourage you to keep all of your content inside of Blackboard. And what you would do in order to use these different things we're going to talk about is create links inside of your Blackboard that would direct the students out to these different pieces. So let's get started. I have a Google Doc that's right here, and here is a course schedule. Now, why would you want to put a course schedule in a Google Doc? Advantages in a flexible teaching environment is that you may have to switch things up mid-semester or along the way, depending on what the needs are of the students. So this would be just an example of something that would benefit from the ability to have live time updates throughout a semester. All right, let's talk about assignment criteria. So this is just an example of an assignment that I pulled from Greg and Teresa's course for flexible teaching. And what I did is, you know, as an instructional designer, we know that instructions are very important in order to prevent confusion for students. So making sure that they're written clearly, concise, and sharing every little bit of detail along the way is what the students are going to be looking for. But let's take an example of you trying to have the students, if they were creating a research paper of some sort. In that research paper, all of these questions come to your email saying, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. If you were to have a Google Doc, you actually could update the Google Doc as the questions come through. So it's just it allows you the ability to do the live updates, and then your response to the students would actually just be check the Google Doc for the updates. So those duplicate questions that you constantly get, all of that kind of stuff, you would be able to update. So live class, flexible class, online class, all of those different modalities, using a Google Doc to keep this information updated is definitely helpful. It also keeps all of the assignment information together, because one of the things that you noticed this past semester was with the use of announcements, components of the assignments would go out with an announcement, and so the students would have to look through multiple locations to find information about it. So again, this is the way to get around that piece. So what about journals? Google Docs work great with journals. No matter what the modality, there are benefits of using Google Docs for journals. For a science course, it could be helpful with research, observations, and labs. For English courses, journals may be great in Google Docs, especially if there are opportunities to work synchronously with students while editing. Here's just a sample task organizer. You know, you could use this. I should disclose that I purposely kept these ideas more on the simple simple, what am I trying to say? I wanted to keep things simple so that you would have the ability to think about it cross-discipline. Okay, so maybe not quantum mechanics, but generally speaking, you'll notice that the concepts are simple, so that you can hopefully think about how it would work for your particular class. But that's one, another option is the task organizer. All right, how about a lecture, simple lecture? Why would you put a lecture on here? It really goes back to that whole concept of being able to adjust it if you need to. So if there is some confusion, if it is a science concept that you want to update a little bit more to explain something differently, if it's in this format, you can let the students know that it's been updated and the students can take another look. This is one of the things that I really like. So moving on to the next one. How about this? Now I used a really simple example, but let's just envision a student emailing you stating, I have an issue, I don't understand a concept, okay? You say, all right, here's a link to a Google Doc. You send it to them. Hi, Sarah, explain to me again where you're struggling. Okay, well, I want to know, I know I know that proportions work well with finding percentages. I can't set up the problem. Do you know how to move forward? So they send a screenshot, they upload it in there, and you can add right there, hi Sarah, it's great, but here's the next steps. This could be used in so many different capacities across all the disciplines, whether it be art or history or science or math, business. There are so many multiple uses for this concept of an impromptu office hour, or use them as office hours. You could do that too. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was just a simple group activity. So in this, we have group A, B, and C. Now I just made up a few different ideas, but each of these would link out into a different document that the students would work within. And in this particular assignment, I just a very generic assignment, an essay talking about the effects of war. And there's a reference to the rubric that the students would be using to guide them. And then you would have access to the Google Docs, and the students could work in them and let you know when their final version is ready to submit. Now, I should also add that if you wanted a submission within Blackboard, you could just create a simple assignment and they could paste the Google link in there. So here's an advanced group activity. So for this one, they're going to read about the history. They're going to enter into the Google chat room and make sure they record the meeting for a submission for an assignment. They could use the slides to create a collaborative slideshow. There are a little bit of notes to know about how to do that, but it's absolutely possible inside of Google Docs. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I just kind of wanted to ask you, does anybody have any questions about what you saw? Anything that you think you could use Google Docs and outside of maybe what you've seen before or used it for before? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. And in this time, I wanted to talk a little bit about Google Slides. So something I saw at the SUNY Summit in 2019 were was using Google Slides for course introductions. And I think there's some value in doing this because the students can use the comment feature and also can reference back to it at a later time. So this is just a template that I created. I usually give this out to faculty that I'm working with as just another means of doing the course introductions. It can be done inside of Blackboard. This is just another alternative way to go about it. In this case, you would choose a slide template. I'll show you what those look like in just a moment. That would work for your course. And then copy the slide into a new Google presentation. Modify the slide to make a master slide. Once it's complete, you'll just duplicate the slide so that you have an empty slide for every student that's in your course. Students can fill out the slide. The only thing that we have to do is make sure that the setting has a shareable link. And you would share that link inside your Blackboard course for them to see. So let's see what this could look like. So one extra step, example instructions to include in Blackboard. It's a Google slide presentation. We use it as a way to introduce ourselves. Use a blank slide and fill in the relevant information. Meet your classmates through the slides to see who is in the class and learn a bit about them. I encourage you to use the comment feature. Be sure to look back on this activity to be sure that you met everyone. So this is what it could look like. So the students would get this blank slide and would fill in their information. Okay. So just realized I wasn't in presentation mode. My apologies. All right, so let's think about it from another side. Inside of Google Slides, each student puts a favorite piece of art, a favorite picture, something that's relevant to the instruction of what's going on in the course. Critique the following image. What's good about it? What could be improved? You could potentially use Google Slides to do this. You probably could do it in other means, other options, Google Docs also. But again, what's nice about it is the ability to add comments. You could even use the presenter slides to use for comment purposes there too. What about creating a timeline of events? Now, there are ways to create timelines using different features inside. I believe there's one in Slides. Hey, Jen, is that true that it's in Slides or is it only in Google Docs?
The timeline is only in
Yes, the
Slides.
timeline.
Yep,
It
only
is
in
in
Slides.
Slides. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. All right, so you could possibly create a timeline inside of Google Slides, but I did it kind of generic on purpose. Create a timeline of events, event A, B, and C. I guess I only did through B. So that would be one option, and what the students would be requesting to do is maybe pick a component of something that happened within that timeline and further describe it, analyze information regarding it. There's multiple uses for that. So here's another one, political science, President George H.W. Bush, what's the greatest accomplishment? I added a couple other presidents in here, and the students could be creating kind of a study packet of some sort that could be used for down the road for test purposes. Other students could comment on it, so if they missed something key, they could come back in there and comment there. Okay. So after looking at Google Slides, does anyone have any questions about that? So I was just trying to, I feel bad because I recognize that the topics that I chose were definitely simple, but I really was kind of hoping that you would just see the vision, how it could possibly work for your course. All right, so I'm going to pull up one more thing. Okay. Now, something that I really have started to explore a little bit more, especially with all that has happened with this different with our spring semester, was the use of Google Forms. Now, what I found is there are multiple uses of it, and I tried to create a form that would demonstrate those differences, those multiple uses. So for example, you can actually, students can upload an image in here if it was an assignment. So um, if there was something that they needed to a picture of something that needed to be uploaded. And you'll see in here, I asked, like, what did you like most about this assignment? What did you like least? You know, where does this count? I was just trying to give you some different, you see how there's a paragraph option in here. There are multiple choice, there's check boxes, drop downs. This is the file upload that I used. So you can ask a lot of different questions in here, and I could see this being used for multiple different reasons. So then in here, I uploaded a Google Forms tutorial. And my question was, now after watching the tutorial, what kind of questions do you have? So that's another option that's in here. You could check in with the students throughout the semester. So maybe it's the day or two before your Zoom session. You could come in and just ask them a few questions. How do you feel? How prepared do you feel on this topic? How prepared do you feel on topic B? So you can see that it's actually really, really easy. I could show you just a single question. I'm going to add a plus question, and I choose which one I'm looking for. It's multiple choice, and I enter my question in, add my options. This is nice because it can require it, so the students have to fill it out in order to submit it. So this is all definitely a way of, I would prefer to see more of an informal assessment of maybe seeing where the students are at, and also a way to upload things like if you have them reflecting, let's say it's an art class, they take a picture of a piece of art, or they upload a picture, an image of the art, and then you ask them to critique the art in this form, and then they submit that to you. And I can show you what it looks like after the fact. So this is the one response, and it allows you to see what the image looks like. And I just kind of put silly answers in here. But you can see how prepared do they feel on this topic. This would be really helpful right before a lecture. I know that with flexible instruction, the concern is you won't know where the students are with material. This is a very quick and easy way for them to see, for you to see where they are, how confident they feel. And yes, there are ways to do this inside of Blackboard, but this is just another means of doing that. Okay, now, do you have any questions about that? Is this at all getting you to thinking about things you could possibly use in your class?
Gary, a question about the Google Forms and the submit button at the bottom. I had the darndest time with half the class not actually pressing submit. So when you're looking in classroom, you have the work that isn't done, but it is done, and it's just a pain in the can. Any solution to force submit before you leave the page?
So did you have the required button clicked on it?
Yes.
You did. So they would fill it all out and they just wouldn't press submit.
Yeah. So,
Um,
so that you end up with half the class hasn't done the work, but when you look at the respondents, 3/4 of the class has done the work. It was just kind of this chasing your tail around kind of thing.
okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. I was playing around with this for a different purpose, and I needed the next step was going to be something outside of the Google form. So what was going to happen is they were going to submit fill out the Google form, get an email response the record of the responses sent to their email, and then I needed them to forward it to somebody else. So my last question was actually in there. Do you understand I need you to do X, Y, and Z? And I don't know if there's a way, to possibly include such a question, but uh, it at least stops them for a moment to think about what needs to be done. That's just off the top of my head. Jen, do you have any suggestion there?
I do. What you could do is just add a text at the end of the form saying, now hit the submit button.
There you go.
Or put it up in the directions at the top where you, because there's an area at the top of the form that you can fill out where you give them their directions.
In big letters.
Big letters. It's not really customizable. You could probably just use capital letters, but I would probably put asterisks around it, just so they know. But I think the more useful would be that the last quote unquote question be just text saying, please do not forget to click the button below that submits your answers. If you do not click it, your assignment won't be submitted. That would be my only suggestion for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rich, along those lines, you might actually force the form to email them the responses. And so you could have in that last part, be sure you hit submit. And if you don't get an email with the responses, you didn't do it right.
Yes, that's a good one.
Thanks, Casey.
Any other questions? Jen, is there anything you wanted to add to what we talked about today?
So I was just thinking about a couple of different use cases for forms. I mean, because we want to focus so much on community building in a remote situation or a flexible situation, I think using the form as a check-in for students, you could just have something that every week you put out to students that says, how are you doing with the material this week? They fill in the form, and then you've got questions from them. I think additionally, you can kind of get a bead on their attitude or their mood. I mean, obviously they're going through something pretty challenging, and a big monkey wrench has been thrown into their school year. So it's important to kind of get that information from your students because you're not seeing them face to face. So just kind of having a touch base of a form every week. Additionally, one of the things, if you have any guest speakers coming in, or if you want to solicit questions ahead of time for lectures, send out a form a couple days before the lecture based on what you've read so far. What are questions that you have that you really need me to cover in the lecture? And it really would help you to tailor the lecture to fit, their needs, and it gets them thinking about the material. It engages them, it hooks them. So it's just one more little way to get them in. I think that's it for yeah.
Thank you.
If you have something specific you want me to.
Nothing specific.
I like using the Google Docs as journals because you have an ongoing journal, and you could be used for a lab journal as well. And students can, or you could use a Google spreadsheet as a lab journal where they're recording their observations in a spreadsheet, and they simply have to share the link with you. And they can do that with if they have somebody they're working with as well. They can share that link, and they can both collaborate on that lab journal. The other thing about the journaling is, as the instructor, you can go through and you can comment on things without having to have a paper back and forth. So really, it's in real time, you're having a conversation with them about their journaling and the information that they've put in there.
Thank you very much for that.
What else you can do too, and I'm just thinking here, a lot of times you have class projects that you have students working in multiple groups. So utilizing the various tools that are part of GSuite for them to do their collaboration can be beneficial as well. So for example, using Google Docs to write the final paper, using Google Sheets to distribute the work between each student and look at those possible milestones or due dates of each section of the project. Using slides to create the presentation that they may have to give at the end that goes along with the final paper. And then there's other tools that are part of there too that students can use to help with their collaborative process. So thinking about how they can use chat, using Google Meet and all of those other pieces too. So there's, a lot of the pieces that Carrie has brought up as well as what Jen's brought in. And so just thinking of these different things that we can find ways to utilize these tools. And there are ways for them to be accessible through Blackboard as well.
Teresa, on that, if you're guiding students through a project, obviously time management is sometimes a challenge for our students, and it's especially a challenge for our students in a situation like this. So a Google form could actually be used for accountability along a project. So if a team is working on a project, each person is responsible each week for going in and reporting, what they did on the project, where they are within that timeline of events. And then any other, obviously there could be, it's called Slacker hardball, but there could be a question in the form or any of your teammates not pulling their weight. So it gives you an idea of how that group work dynamic is going as well. I love that term, Slacker hardball.
And something else I realized I didn't end up talking about was just the use of the Google Calendar. Earlier this morning, I was talking about a presentation and student-centered instruction, what that would look like. And the Google Calendar of you potentially putting the due dates for all of your course together. The students all have access to the calendar. You could share it out with them and use that as a means of helping them keep organized. Now, would you do that for your face-to-face classes? I don't know about that, but maybe in this flexible learning space, it might be helpful to them as they adjust to this world. Any other thoughts or comments?
Okay, the group's been quiet here. Can I back up to the journaling question?
Sure.
One of the things that Google Docs has driven me crazy with is I've got about 1 billion documents being shared with me across campus. And I've loved the Google Classroom because it's like, I don't have to see all the junk in the bottom of the drawer. It's all organized for me. But how would the journaling work with, like, what would be the setup so that I can keep track, but how do I get to those files? How do you see where those are stored or neatly, or what do you got in mind?
Okay, I'm gonna let Jen take that one.
Okay. So I guess what I would probably do is if you have a template for a journal, you can do a forced copy. And that is, Carrie will show you how to do that in a minute. But you can make this template for your journal. You can allow a forced copy of that journal. Then the students have their own version of that template. All that they would need to do to submit to you would just be to give you view rights and or comment rights and give you the link. So they would really just submit the link. As far as like where to house all of your shared things, I guess I would put, I mean, I understand having everybody share everything with you all the time. I guess I would just have, you know, a folder in my Google Drive that was specifically named for that course and a journal folder within that. And every time I get one, I just drag it in there if necessary. The
Okay,
forced
and
copy you're going to love, by the way. This is the best
yeah,
best invention on the planet. It's like passing out a paper digitally.
okay. This is something that Jen showed us when she came to Oswego, and we definitely love it. So, can you see across in the toolbar up here? It talks about edit.
Yep.
See the word edit there? I'm going to do this crazy thing. Remove that and put copy. So now, when the students come to the screen, they're going to be asked to make a copy of it. So
Now,
this would, go ahead.
so when you put the link into Blackboard, you want to make sure that you're putting in the one that says course the copy. Rich, you said you were using Google Classroom though.
Yes.
You're not gonna, you won't need to use this.
Okay.
It definitely, there's multiple
Yeah,
uses for that.
20 ways to skin a cat here.
Yes.
There was also something that I forgot to bring up when I was talking about Forms that's kind of neat. Forms integrates with, well, so YouTube is Google and Google is YouTube. So if you have a YouTube channel of your lectures, or if you have certain YouTube videos that you want students to be watching and you want them to respond to them, you can easily put a YouTube video into a form and then have some follow-up questions below it. So like Carrie said, you could upload files and things, but it also integrates very quickly with YouTube.
Yeah. And Casey put in the comments, you can create all of the documents for a class in one folder and share each folder with each student with edit permissions. Then you own it and you don't need to worry about them sharing it with you. That's definitely helpful. All right, is there anything else to add or? All right, well, thank you very much for coming and hope you found some value. If you take something away from it, that's great. If you have any questions, I was going to say the one thing that's really nice, or I did say at the beginning, any assistance with Google, they have fantastic resources. So definitely a quick Google, you'll find what you need.
Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.